Hey, we are back for part two of our conversation with Pat Jollota. Hi again, Pat.
Hello again, Temple.
Welcome, Pat.
Thank you, Jim.
And Jim, I see that you are standing in front of the new Vancouver Farmers Market.
Yeah, what do you think? Does it look good out here? Looks really good.
Looks good. Looks good. We've been told there will be social distancing. I see. Well, there's nobody in the photo.
Well, just me.
Yeah, everything looks pretty close together there.
Well, I'm the only one, and they're only letting me in. Heard that's the new way they're going to do the NFL. They're going to have a lineup outside, and then one person can come in to the stadium and watch the game for about 5 minutes, and then they just keep rotating people through.
How do they social distance the football players?
No, exactly. It was a joke, everyone. So that I don't want to jump back into the coronavirus talk because we did that, but that is a talk. Like, how are we going to do sports this coming year? Because I heard the NFL, there's a lot up in the air.
Yeah, no, I mean, sports, we were talking about things that are going to be fundamentally changed, and sports, professional sports and collegiate sports is huge.
As Temple mentioned earlier, though, on the quarantine videos we're doing here, Temple and I put out a call for questions, and we did get a lot of fun ones. So we thought part two would be kind of more historic and kind of fun questions with Pat. One that we've heard a few times, Pat, how many books have you authored?
9.
Wow. And I guess one of the questions.
I mean, how many have I authored? How many have I published? Because I've got a couple on the computer that don't have publishers.
Interesting.
Oh.
So how many
Well,
books?
there's one in particular that, the first book I wrote was naming Clark County.
Mm-hmm.
And it's outdated. We've added so many parks, so many schools, everything in the years since. And I started to write it, and it turned into the owner's guide to Clark County, because all of the questions I've been asked, why do we have that terrible railroad berm that kills our view of the river? Those kind of things. And one man called me. He was absolutely terrified that they were out to get him because someone had come along and painted a blue arrow pointing right at his front door on the street. So I had to tell him about when they're doing road work, how they put in the blue for water and the red and the yellow. So I verified with our road department that these were still the colors they were using. And that was one of the answers, they're not after you. They're going to go dig up your street pretty soon is what it is. So things like that. So it's kind of an owner's guide to Clark County. But that doesn't fit anybody's agenda.
Actually, it sounds amazing. It sounds kind of cool.
Fun. It's fun. It's really fun.
Yeah.
So, Pat, the question that we have had people ask Temple and I is, if you had to pick one of your favorites that you've published, what would be your favorite?
Oh my gosh. The last one. I think one that really didn't sell very well, and it was called Vanishing Vancouver. And it was the things in Vancouver that aren't here anymore. Like our lighthouse in the Columbia River. We actually had a lighthouse in the middle of the Columbia River. And
Like here, near Vancouver and Portland?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And they wanted to electrify it and didn't know how to run electricity out to the middle of it, because the guy had to stand out there in the fog, light the lantern, stand out in the fog and ring a bell.
What?
And
that's
on
crazy.
A foggy night, man, I would have been ringing loud and clear. And they couldn't electrify it, so they moved it over to Kelly Point. And then in 1955, it burned down. So we don't have that anymore. Things like that I thought were kind of fun. And the book that took the most out of me emotionally, of course, was The Murder of Joanne Dewey.
Yeah.
Because I identified with her so much.
Mhm.
The more I researched, the more I felt like I was her, she was me. The night she died, she was wearing a white peasant blouse with a ruffle. And in the 50s, I had a white peasant blouse with a ruffle, and things like that. And
Yeah. Archie, he interrupts conversations. So but he was interested in Joanne Dewey. So we wanted to.
So those are the two. The one, that one took a lot out of me, and Vanishing Vancouver was fun. The newest book, which is Haunted Vancouver, is due to come out April 30th.
Wait.
How are we going to do it?
Wait.
There's nobody in the office at the publishers. There's no bookstores open. There's no restaurants open where you can have a launch party.
Wait.
No bookstores to sell it.
What's it called?
Haunted Vancouver.
Haunted Vancouver is coming out this month.
It can't.
Yeah.
Do you share in this one the I-5 ghost story?
Oh yes, of course. So many. I mean, the historic reserve is just alive with ghosts, in a manner of speaking.
Any haunting stories or other related stories about the Parkview Cemetery?
You rarely find ghosts in cemeteries because people don't die there. What you feel is, I think, the emotion of the living who have come to
That's a fair, yeah, I appreciate that.
That's amazing. I never thought about that.
Yeah. I live near the Parkview, and so like I've been taking a lot of walks through there during this time, and it's been interesting because it hasn't felt like there are some graveyards that have the creepy feel. This one doesn't. It's very nice. It's clean. It's open.
Visit my grave. It's there.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I've got a tombstone there in Park Hill.
Wait. You already have the stone?
And it's all engraved with my name, yes.
And just has your birth date?
No. No, it's Jake's.
Oh.
It's got Jake's, and they put my name on it.
There's an interesting headstone on the far north end of that cemetery where there's a man, I can't remember his name, but it's 3 names on the headstone, and it's him, his loving wife, who died before him, his second loving wife, who died before him. They died like 5 or 7 years apart, and then he still had another 20.
Wow. Of course, there's the one in the old city cemetery, which is Edward Gallagher died by legal hanging.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. Can people still get this book when it gets out from home?
It'll be on Amazon, of course, and several other online bookstores. I mean, how do they find out about it? I have no idea what. Now, this is History Press. They're the ones that did Joanne Dewey. And I don't know how they're going to do it. I have, it's not my job. I just write, but they tell me.
We know that you enjoy a good glass of wine.
I do indeed.
So we actually had 2 different people ask, do you have a favorite, and what's your favorite?
Oh my goodness. I was in Portugal a couple of years ago. I discovered Vinho Verde, which is this lovely, it's kind of a low alcohol, actually, almost spritzy white wine, just delightful. And I went to the Avalon winery. I went to the winery and tried it there. And I was delighted to go online and find out that that totally good wine store had it in stock and would deliver, 5 or 6 bottles to me. I also like a good Pinot Noir.
We have a question here, Pat. Someone would like you to share about your daughter-in-law getting you involved with the Dig of the Warriors.
The Dig of the Warriors. Yeah. Well, my daughter-in-law was doing some teaching at, I think it was the University of Maryland, Maryland State, I don't know which. But she called me and said their archaeology professor was looking for 2 senior citizens to assist him on a month-long class in China. And she put my name in. Was that okay? And I can't talk to you now, sweetheart, I'm packing. And so yes, I did. The other senior was a Sikh fella who was a retired decoder for the United States government. Brilliant man, spoke like 5 languages. And we went off to just kind of keeping these college kids corralled as we moved through China, going from archaeological dig to archaeological dig. And of course, in Xi'an, we spent the most time with the Terracotta Warriors and that incredible dig. They're nowhere near finished digging in that
Really?
pit. They think the emperor is in a hill behind it because he supposedly had a map of his kingdom with the cities pecked out in precious jewels and the rivers in mercury. And as they did a core sample, they came up with a layer of mercury. So they think that story is true and he's in there, but they aren't technologically capable of opening that up yet.
Wow.
But we went to Macau to a Portuguese dig that they had just started. You know, Portugal was in China long before the British were, which was another reason I wanted to go to Portugal. But it was going from archaeological site to archaeological site was just absolutely fascinating.
How are your meals going? Are you eating well? Are you eating interesting things? I know you, in addition to liking good wine, you also like good food.
That's a great question. And now that we've asked the other ones questions, we can go back to our topic of the last video. So Temple had a good point about, like, are you buying things? Like, how do you get your groceries? What's that process for you?
I do the pickup. I'm not going to go into a grocery store. For my regular groceries, I'd go online, and I plan ahead because sometimes you can't get delivery for several days.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm planning at least a week out. But I've only had to shop twice since March because my generation stocks up, you know. I mean, I've still got 4 gallons of bleach, for crying out loud. There are two places in the world where I have this suspension of disbelief. One is in the tool section in a hardware store. I firmly believe those tools are going to do the wonderful things they say they're going to do. I know it. So I buy them. The other is in the cleaning supplies at the grocery store. I know that spot remover is going to instantly remove whatever spot there is. I know that it's just, I'm just going to spray it on my rug and vacuum it up and it will be just like new. During that time, I'm in that aisle, I believe, and I buy. So I've got a cupboard full of this stuff.
You know, that happens to me when I walk into an office supply store. I walk in and I am just like blown away by planners and notebooks and pens, and I will buy, and I've got a computer. I don't even use a planner anymore, but I want them, you know. I just
calendars, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And there's something about the planners, especially like the new, like the bullet journal and all these things that say get your life in order. And apparently you have to do more than just buy it and let it sit on the desk.
Question that did come up, and we didn't really hit on it too deeply in the first video, is just your mental health overall. Are you getting, you know, like you mentioned, I saw on Facebook that you're going out for drives. Like, are you doing some things? You're having people come to visit from a socially distant, physically distant?
It's kind of been fun. Yes, we were doing the social distancing. I have a friend who works downtown, and that she's coming. And I will pour a glass of wine and put an antiseptic wipe around it and set it on a bench in my front yard. And she will come in her car, get out, take the glass of wine. I will sit. We're about 10 feet apart. We share a glass of wine and we chat. And then I walk away. She puts the glass back on the bench. We so need social interaction.
Mhm.
And while Zoom is wonderful, it's not the same as actually human person there. So we find a way.
Yeah.
We find a way.
Well, I think that's all the questions we've got. And
I think
this has
so.
been amazing, Pat, to have you on.
Oh, thank you. It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
Something on my calendar.
It's been great to see you. This has been a lot of fun. Pat, thank you so much for chatting with us. This has been part 2 of our conversation with Pat Jollota.
And catch us again for 3, 4, 5, and 6 in the near future.